If you've spent any time at all scrolling through the corners of the internet, you've definitely come across them. These epic, almost unbelievable tales of revenge. They're kind of like modern-day fables. Stories of justice being served, and served ice cold, and just devastatingly effective. Today, we are going to break down the anatomy of the perfect pro-revenge story, using a playbook taken straight from the pages of Reddit.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Have you ever been wronged so badly that you just lay awake at night fantasizing about getting even? I'm not talking about some small, petty payback. I mean a complete, life-altering, tables-turned reversal of fortune. Well, for some people out there, that's not just a fantasy. They've actually turned revenge into a legitimate art form, and we're about to take a deep dive into their blueprint. Okay, so first things first, let's set the stage. We need to be crystal clear about what we're talking about here. This isn't about petty revenge. Yeah, sure, it's satisfying to imagine spiking a lunch thief sandwich with the world's hottest hot sauce, but that's like a firecracker. It's a quick pop, a moment of satisfaction. Pro-revenge? That's a controlled demolition. It is the difference between pulling a quick prank and executing a meticulously planned, long-term strategy that completely dismantles an opponent's career, their finances, and their entire reputation. It's a whole different ballgame.
So where does a journey like this even begin? Well, every single pro-revenge story starts not with malice, not with someone just wanting to be mean. It starts with a profound, soul-crushing injustice. It is never, ever unprovoked. It's a reaction. It's like Newton's third law, right? An equal and opposite force, but one that's ignited by a deep, burning sense of betrayal.
Just take a look at this quote. This comes from a story about a guy working at a hotel. Read that again. This isn't just about having a bad day at the office or not getting along with your boss. This is a coordinated attack, a conspiracy. The new owner and his own coworkers are actively, deliberately plotting to make his life so miserable that he'll just give up and quit, all so they don't have to pay him severance. That feeling, that specific feeling of being ganged up on, of being the target of a calculated plot, that is the core ingredient. That's the fuel for pro-revenge. And you see this same pattern repeat itself over and over again across all these incredible stories. You've got a manager whose personal hatred of smokers becomes a pretext for firing a star employee. A husband who discovers his spouse isn't just cheating, but is doing so on a gay dating app, adding layers of deception. You have a wealthy city dweller who moves to the country and dismisses his new neighbor as some kind of simpleton, just completely underestimating him. Or, and maybe the darkest example, a son who exploits his own father's Alzheimer's to steal from him. The themes are always the same and they're universal. A gross abuse of power, profound disrespect, and a deep personal betrayal. This is the breaking point.
But look, getting mad is the easy part, right? Anyone can get angry. What comes next is what elevates these stories from a simple rant into something legendary. This is where the pro in pro-revenge really comes into play, the planning phase. This is the part where all that hot, righteous anger is channeled into cold, calculated, brilliant strategy. Honestly, it's a masterclass in patience and precision. And what's amazing is that when you look at enough of these stories, a very clear playbook starts to emerge. It's almost like they all read the same secret manual. It boils down to a 4-step process that nearly every single successful protagonist follows. Step 1, document everything. Step 2, know the rules of the system you're operating in better than your opponent does. Step 3, get legal advice or lawyer up. And step 4, maybe the most important of all, bide your time. You wait for the absolute perfect moment to strike.
Let's talk about step 1 because it is absolutely crucial. Evidence is everything. That hotel employee who found out his coworkers were conspiring against him, he didn't just get upset. He methodically forwarded every single incriminating email to his personal account, creating an undeniable paper trail. And what about the dispatcher who was being verbally abused by his boss every day? He went out and bought a spy pen to record every single unhinged tirade. You see the pattern? They didn't just feel wronged, they built an airtight, undeniable case file, piece by painful piece.
Now, step 3, lawyer up. It doesn't always mean what you think. It doesn't mean walking into a high-rise law firm with a massive retainer. Sometimes it starts much, much simpler. That dispatcher I mentioned, the one with the spy pen, his first move wasn't to file a lawsuit. He took his buddy, who happened to be a lawyer, out for wings and beer. It's about getting that professional insight early on. It's about understanding your rights, your options, and just as importantly, your opponent's vulnerabilities before you make your first big move.
And this brings us to knowing the rules. This is so key. The heroes of these stories, they don't just get mad, they get smart. They become absolute experts in the systems that their enemies inhabit. That dispatcher, he started quoting specific labor laws and regulations back to his stunned boss. The husband whose wife cheated on him with her addictions counselor, he didn't just get angry about the affair, he used the state's professional conduct regulations to get the counselor's license permanently revoked. They took the rule book and they weaponized it against the people who thought the rules didn't apply to them.
So, after all the planning, all the waiting, all the meticulous documenting, comes the moment of truth. This brings us to the climax, to the part of the story that we're all waiting for, the execution. This is that beautiful, terrifying moment where the carefully laid trap is finally sprung. And some of these plans are just breathtaking in their sheer patience. Look at this timeline. This is a revenge plot that unfolded not over weeks or months, but over years. The protagonist, let's call him Bam Bam, quietly endured his smug, disrespectful neighbor Dick, who refused to pay his share for the road and well they both used. But Bam Bam knew a secret. He knew the property deeds showed that he actually controlled the water and septic lines to Dick's house. So he waited. He waited for years, until the day Dick put the house up for sale. Then, he legally and officially cut the lines. The property value plummeted overnight, and Bam Bam swooped in and bought it himself for a pittance. That's not just revenge. That's chess. Checkmate.
Other times, though, the execution is just pure, uncut, cinematic drama. Take this quote. This is from a wife who discovered her husband was cheating. She tracks him down to a hotel room. But she doesn't scream, she doesn't cry, she doesn't make a scene. No. She calmly walks in, presents him with the folder of evidence she's collected, and slides over the prenup he made her sign years ago with the infidelity clause neatly highlighted. She tells him it's over, that she's getting everything. And he knows, in that one instant, the game is completely and utterly over.
And the consequences in these stories, they are devastatingly real. Take the story of the half-brother who stole $3,000 from his father who was suffering from Alzheimer's, a truly disgusting betrayal. Well, for that $3,000, he was completely cut out of his stepmother's will, which ended up costing him a future inheritance of $125,000. A painful, painful lesson in consequences.
And hey, remember that dispatcher with a spy pen and a lawyer friend? Well, after his boss finally unjustly fired him, he didn't just walk away. He brought out his recordings. He used them to negotiate a massive settlement. He walked away with a full 15 months of severance pay. The best part? He did all this while he was already starting a brand new, better-paying job.
And what about the video creator who was fired for literally no reason other than his manager hated that he smoked? He didn't just complain. He subtly, cleverly engineered a situation where his replacement, a big, expensive production house, blew the project's budget not by a little, but by a factor of 10. The colossal, embarrassing failure got that manager fired and blacklisted. The scale of the fallout is often just immense.
So this all leads to the final question, right? What happens in the aftermath? After the dust settles, after the plan has been executed, who really wins, who loses, and maybe most interestingly, what is the final verdict from the court of public opinion, the Reddit comment section?
When you look at the final score, it's rarely close. The victories are almost always total, almost absolute. The protagonists walk away with huge settlements, better jobs, and most importantly, emotional closure. Meanwhile, the antagonists, they often face complete and utter ruin. We're talking getting fired, being blacklisted in their industry, losing their businesses, their professional licenses, and yeah, even their marriages. It is a total wipeout.
But what about us? How do we, the people reading these stories, react? Well, the comments section tells its own fascinating story. As you can see, the vast majority of people, half of them, just offer praise and support. Another quarter are so moved that they share their own similar experiences. Then you get a healthy dose of armchair legal analysis, but of course, there's always that slice of pure, unadulterated skepticism.
And honestly, you can't really blame them, can you? Some of these stories are so perfectly constructed, so incredibly cinematic, they just feel a little too good to be true. Commenters are always quick to jump in and point out potential plot holes or what they see as legal inaccuracies, often dismissing the whole thing as a really well-written creative writing exercise.
And yet, for every single skeptic, there are dozens and dozens of comments just like this one.
I mean, read that. It perfectly captures the raw, vicarious thrill that readers get from these stories. It's about way more than just somebody getting revenge. It's about seeing a system that so often feels unfair or rigged or broken actually work for the little guy for once. It's a powerful, powerful form of catharsis for everyone reading along.
Which really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Are these tales true, documented accounts of righteous justice being served, or are they the modern folklore of our digital age? And maybe, just maybe, the more important question is this: when a story is this good and this satisfying, do we even really care which one it is? It seems, at least for the internet, a good story where justice is finally served is a victory all on its own.